All right, so this presentation is about Arweave Africa and AO, as you can see here. There is, I think, amazing opportunities in the Arweave and AO ecosystem. And so thank you for those that are here live in the call and for those listening or watching on the video in the post event. So I have a few thoughts on Arweave and Africa and AO. I'm calling it the AO opportunity. And I'm just going to share a few things about AO and a few things about what's going on in the ecosystem and a few pieces of perhaps inspiration or motivation to frame the opportunities that are present now and that may be right in your wheelhouse to go after. So AO is decentralized compute at any scale. If you're not aware of what AO is, I highly encourage you to go to ao.arweave.net and look into the build category. And you see the little top 3 tabs in the upper right of the screen there. Explore around, check out what Mint means, and check out all of the facts and features of the bridging of assets and how the AO community is being powered even financially, which I'll get into a little bit here. So understand the tech, right? Decentralized compute at any scale. I'm going to get in a little bit about as to why I think AO is so powerful and important for those of you looking to build decentralized tech. Okay, so it's designed to scale. Little typo there, apologies. It's designed to scale from the start. And what does that mean? So basically, AO is actor-oriented. It is a message-passing computer. And, if you're sending a message to what's called a process, that's not going to interfere with my message sending to a different process. We're not all competing for the same exact compute. As more compute is added, it basically becomes more powerful. So in a single state shared machine where there's global state and so on, basically everyone's competing for that limited block space. With AO computer, you're not competing for that limited block space. You are simply utilizing the ever expanding compute that is added to the supercomputer that is AO computer. So from the start, it is a very different methodology that employs actor-oriented, systems and these parallel processing capabilities, whereby you're not being interrupted by some other's action. This is, I think, a really important thing to make note of from the beginning. Now, how that happens, I'll get into a little bit of detail here. I do encourage you to go to ao.arweave.net, read the docs. There's even a place where you can actually get the llm.txt file, and it'll bring all that information into your favorite LLM of choice. You can start asking questions and things like that, which is always a great way to learn. The other thing that makes AO really powerful is that AO, and this is my opinion, and not just opinion, this is also how it's designed. AO computer does not deny or disregard Web 2. It doesn't say oh yeah, who cares about Web 2? What it does is it augments Web 2 technology. So there's this thing called HTTP message signing. Obviously, you're familiar with HTTP if you've used the internet. It's everywhere. It's a protocol that powers much of our use of accessing and interacting with information. So with what's called AO Core, which is a part of the AO computer and a very core part of AO computer, it basically enables, one of the components is it enables AO to work seamlessly with HTTP. So what does that mean? That means that AO doesn't just say, hey, look, we don't care about Web 2. It means that AO augments Web 2. And so with HTTP message signing, you can basically create little mini blockchains powered by AO and Arweave for any site. Now you have to like plug in a few details for AO Core to work with these sites. The point is that it utilizes the infrastructure that is widely available and massively utilized to augment it into creating basically mini blockchains very seamlessly. And this enables the creation of what one may call oracles, again, or mini blockchains for any given app or website that integrates AO Core into their HTTP message signing for that service, whatever it may be. And to me, these two components of thinking about scaling and not just thinking about it, employing the possibilities of scaling from the start, and also making it so that it connects with the internet at large through a protocol that is HTTP that is very widely used. This enables for not only scaling, it also enables for growth because there's already so much momentum in HTTP. And it makes basically creating blockchain oriented applications very, very seamless and very, very rapid and very accessible for developers. The last part here that I have noted here is that it uses Arweave for quote unquote state. You may want to mute that, Murdy. All right. So the last thing I have here is that AO uses Arweave for state. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's, AO Computer is not like a global shared state machine. Not everyone's competing for limited block space, right? So there's all sorts of benefits that can come with that, and all sorts of kind of modular components or different pathways to, processing information in a decentralized fashion. Now, the important bedrock of this is Arweave. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Arweave, Arweave enables the permanent and decentralized storage of information. You pay for 200 years upfront and of current prices for storage. The vast majority of all fees in the network go to what's called an endowment. And now over 7 years, the endowment hasn't been used. It's only there for extreme circumstances, for providing incentives for miners. And succinctly put, Arweave as a protocol is just obsessed with keeping information around for as long as possible and has all sorts of incentive mechanisms baked in to achieve that. And so AO Computer, is designed to work really beautifully with Arweave to manage all of the logs of the compute that happens on AO Computer. So AO Computer inherits blockchain like characteristics pretty much out the gate because those logs of compute are sent to Arweave. And what does that mean? So that means that you have an immutable data set of computation that's occurred on AO, and you can re-execute that if you want. So you can do your own verified, practice if you want on anything that is passed through AO Computer that is publicly available. Now, there's a whole other segment of, having like ZK, private, compute and still be able to verify it. There's a lot of opportunities for both public and private compute, and a lot of development happening on the private compute as well, which I think is a bit of an aside, although really, really cool. So the point here is, right from the start, AO Computer is designed to scale. It's not limited by block space, which I think, as we see the markets develop here, because it is an early state still, transitioning to the full mainnet. I think what we'll see is that there's highly cost effective, computation and availability for creating decentralized applications, not competing for limited block space. And again, that's where it leverages Arweave as the kind of end all be all state that you can recompute, that others can recompute, to make sure that what you're interacting with is legit. And the in-between part here is that it connects to the internet via HTTP, which is, I think, a really elegant kind of way to recognize the power of Web 2 and make it better, in my opinion. It's fresh. I mean, AO computer is fresh. You know, what's called legacy nets, like a test net, it started a little over a year ago, and mainnet has been out there for a few months now. It's not a traditional mainnet that it's just like one switch and everything's mainnet. It's more of a transition to mainnet, and a lot of those pieces have already come into place,
All
including
of those
things
nodes
like
doing
being
that
able to
work. So what
pay
AO
and
did
what's
is
called
AO brought
hyperbeam
common
nodes,
sense to it,
which
where it
essentially
was like,
is the
we don't
decentralized node
necessarily
infrastructure
always
to
need this
provide compute to the
excessive peak
network, and then
level
as a
of
user to be able to pay
security and
for
verification. It
that
should be an
compute,
option. It
and
should
like
be
a
a
fast
choice based
pass
on your
to
utility, your use.
computation. LegacyNet testnet has been provided by an entity, and it's really meant for testing. It still has the logs of compute on Arweave, so in that way it's like mainnet. It's just that the actual payment infrastructure and all of that, on the testnet is not there. And so it's very fresh. The mainnet transition is happening now. There's a lot of enthusiasm for mainnet and what's called Hyperbeam and AO Core, which I briefly mentioned before. And some big milestones have just been reached from the AO builders as it pertains to this mainnet transition. So my what I recognize, and this is no investment advice at all, is that over the coming months, I think there's going to be a lot of very serious implementations directly through mainnet. And so, yes, you are early. That is not investment advice. That is simply the reality. And I think with that, there's a lot of opportunity. And AO, in my opinion, is made for all. AO has a fair token launch from the beginning. It was not just like something that was sold to a specific sector of investors. Anyone that's held R or continues to hold R can actually mint AO, and then you can also mint AO or generate AO from staking ETH, Ethereum, or staking DAI through a bridge. And the bridge right now has over $350 million in it that is powering the very nascent and early economy of AO. And I'll get to that in the next slide or two. So it really is made for all in that it's accessible. You come up, you create a great project, and you're able to get it into this larger index called the Permaweb index, and you may receive some serious capital for creating that. And again, fundamentally, it's a fair token launch where anyone out there that has had AO or staked ETH or DAI or whatever it may be, those three in particular actually can and continues to be able to participate in earning AO, which I think is really, really cool. And again, this is no financial advice or anything like that. You can just check out ao.arweave.net and DYOR on all of those details. Okay, so it's also your time to shine. I mean, Tate Barenbaum, who is the founder and CEO of Community Labs, which is a venture studio in the AO and Arweave ecosystem. They have some super important projects and builds and teams out there that have been live for years. One of which is Wander, which is a wallet for Arweave and now AO. It's a browser wallet, so Wander. Anyways, so Tate tweeted this just a few days ago at the time of this recording, and what you're seeing here is a screenshot of the Permaweb index, right? And from my understanding of it, and we're all learning together, it's just like when you look at Apis network, which is providing, GPU, deterministic GPU via AO for computation. They have, like round numbers, 35,000 total AO delegated. This is like this is only going back to March 14th, I think. So it's only been a few months. You can do the math there. 36,000 times around $15 at the time of this recording for AO. We're talking about multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's very significant, right? So Tate's post here says, does anyone realize multiple teams are generated over $100,000 a month on the Permaweb index? And Apis and Bottega, at the time of this recording, if I'm doing the math right here, are generating over $100,000 a month on average, and Action's not far behind. So the point here is that it is your time to shine. There is an amazing opportunity that we're seeing before our eyes. The facts are being presented in this view, and you can check it out for yourself. There is serious opportunity for those that build things of significance and that garner interest from the community at large. So I wanted to highlight this because I think it really is important. It's not all about this. It's just that this is a fresh path to being funded, and it is very egalitarian. It's very like meritocracy in many ways, and I think we'll see more and more of that play out as more participants add their projects and tokens into the ecosystem that is AO, and being involved in what's called the Permaweb Index. So this is Apis network, for example. This is one of those that was there. You see that here, Apis network, their delegation, and reaching that over 100K per month already. So yeah, they're enabling verifiable AO computing, and they have a team that's been up and running for quite some time now. Bottega, which is also there on that slide right here, they are a trading platform. They've now launched their token, BOTG. And the last here is Base Jump, which you can see here through their token called Action. And they're creating games on AO and so on. So really, I think it's just like go wild, be really creative, put all your intellect, put all your abilities into this, and see what happens. Because if we look at these opportunities that are out there, they're very significant, they're very real, and they're happening right now. The other thing is be focused. It's like think about what's out there, think about maybe what's missing, ship, like actually make things, right? Not just like talk, like walk the walk, get great teams together, and prove thyself, if you will, through action. And this leads me to this phrase that I enjoy, which is be undeniable. This is an early ecosystem developing as we speak. You can and have the opportunity to establish yourself as an undeniable part of this ecosystem, or your project, or whatever it is that you create together, as being just crucial. And I encourage you to go towards that. So this is where I say it's your time to shine on AO. And I don't know if I introduced myself in the recording. My name is Greg. I run AO Computer Club, and just really enthusiastic about what's happening and what can be created. And I do have just a minute or two for any questions, if there are any, and then we can wrap up there.
Hey, Greg, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. I know we took like 10 minutes from that, but it's been a very insightful one, I think, for everyone on the call here. I'm going to start with the first question, which I think can kind of like enlighten everyone, like the real opportunity in the ecosystem, since it's so early, as you say, that it's for everyone to be around here. So I just want you to like, from the ecosystem, the projects you've seen around, just try to like enlighten the people here of like Safari 90 on the permissionless aspect of like building in the ecosystem, where like, hey, the ecosystem is there. There is probably things happening already. Like for someone trying to jump in, how they can navigate it. I know you've talked about
Yeah.
that in the last slides, but like probably an example of like the people doing that already, which I
Yeah.
think can be a good example for people here. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Murdy. Well, as I shared here in this presentation, it's out there for you to go and make things happen, right? Like you mentioned the permissionless piece, Murdy. Um, I think many individuals in the AO ecosystem, as more individuals find the AO ecosystem, recognize is like, wow, in my opinion, there's just a lot of opportunity here. Um, the tech is really coming into fruition as we get into full mainnet mode, and the tooling and very specifics in the AO tech stack, if you will, these things called devices, are also being released. So you kind of have all the tools that you need to make something really, really great and impactful. And so one example is StarGrid, stargrid.ar.io. It's a game developed by David and Simone, and they've built out this fully featured, massive, like super produced game, and encourage you to check that out. Um, and that's like one example of, and I already shared, three in this call of teams coming together and kind of going beyond what they thought was possible, integrating into like blockchain systems. You can create an entire fully featured game. For example, StarGrid, all their assets are on Arweave. All the actions are stored via AO computer. So you have this entire blockchain ledger of moves and everything, even the assets of StarGrid. So Murdy, I think that StarGrid is one example. I think there's many out there, some of which I don't even know of yet because they're cooking in the background, and they'll probably release in weeks or who knows what. I don't even know all the extent of what's going on, frankly, which is also exciting. Is to do the thing you thought was impossible and do it on AO. Like if there's some wild idea, that's where I say, go wild. Like really think about what you want to actually see, and maybe not just adapt to what you thought was possible with blockchains, and decentralized computation, and scrap that and say, you know what, I'm going to do the really wild thing and create something new. One of the things and an opportunity that I think is really key to the AO ecosystem is not just mimicry. It's not just like, oh yeah, they do it on that chain or they do it on that, like, compute layer or whatever. Okay, you can use that as inspiration or whatever. It's just go and do the thing that others aren't doing because they can't in their decentralized, computing environment. So that's what I recommend. That's one example. Murdy, any follow up questions there?
I really think that that was it on my end. I just wanted like to show everyone on the call that it's just permissionless. You just have to be there. The tech is there. The community is there to support everyone. So as you said again, go wild. I think that's a very important aspect of it. Like the tech is sort of bringing new ideas that were not probably available there in the ecosystem. I'm just seeing probably a question from Dennis, and that will be the
Hmm.
last since we're just over time. Dennis, please go on. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Was so recently, this previous weekend, we held a Permabite here in Nairobi, and it was
Hmm.
an event centered around creatives. So
Hmm.
there was a challenge put out. Some artists got together and they submitted work, and on the day of the event, they would come and talk about their art and their experience during the challenge and interacting with the tech.
Hmm.
So from my perspective and the experience I have as an artist, I see I see this opportunity to start creating an African native digital artist community in the EO ecosystem. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm when I think about this, I'm used to seeing the value in terms of the art that the creatives are uploading, and then hopefully they can make a sale if it lands on a collector's eyes. But when I look at AO, I see there's this kind of mechanism, this fair launch mechanism. It's like there's a specific way that the network wants you to approach this the value creation side of things. And I am kind of unclear how to approach it from this perspective, where it's artists who are uploading art and aligning this
Mm-hmm.
to some kind of fair launch mechanism. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what you can
Mm-hmm.
help me, just to give me some insight in that direction.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Absolutely fantastic question, and so glad that you were able to host an event. And ideally, you can do more. Yeah, amazing insight embedded in that question. Well, first of all, I love the emphasis on art. I think that's fantastic. Um, and one of the things with AO is it's general programmability in a decentralized fashion. So if you can dream it up, you can probably do it on AO. So that's where things like Ulta.art, which I mentioned maybe prior to the recording, is actually interactive art that historically has been on Arweave using a prior smart contract layer. And now you can build that functionality into art pieces on AO.
Oh,
And I can perhaps bring up an example of something, and then I'll open up the AO Dev Bot, which is something that we've created at AO Computer Club. So to get your question, Dennis, maybe one idea, right? Just offhand. Let's say you create a platform for artists very specifically, and in that platform, artists can sell their work, and maybe they sell their work in I'm just making whatever up, like super art tokens, and you create super art, and it powers your super art platform, and that super art token at the macro level may be able to get incorporated into the Permaweb index, for example, right?
Okay.
So let's say that super art token powers the entire artist platform. It's how you buy and sell art, or maybe it's how artists upload. I don't know what the mechanism is. You create something and you have a lot of momentum with a lot of great artists, that then you have customers and they're buying things through super art token or whatever the functionality is. And then, you get delegations through the charts in which I shared through the ecosystem. And maybe you say, hey, you're gonna sell 10% of your token supply or something like that, in that way, and that's how you may be able to generate some revenue, some of which may be super significant, like what we saw, in that fashion. So if you think about, okay, well, maybe it's not just the individual artist, you're thinking about maybe a larger platform, maybe you create a token for interacting with that platform. Then you have a macro project that can be incorporated into the fair launch mechanism. And you create, an economy and opportunity in that way. So from the macro perspective, that's, I think, one path. From a micro perspective, with AO, there's just all sorts of ways you can create interactive media on AO by creating smart contracts where it's like, if this happens, then that happens. And then, XYZ gets whatever it is. Does that address your question, Dennis, or do you have anything to add?
No, it does. It kind of gives me like various ways to. I'm seeing that there's optionality and flexible ways of approaching it. That really helps.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Optionality and flexibility, I think, are two keywords. And let me see if I can share a quick demonstration here. Let's see. You're going to see my hands moving here. All right. So I'm going to share this demonstration. I'm going to share it within what's called the AO dev bot. So just give me a moment here. And I am going to have to wrap up here soon because I have another call waiting. Okay, so this interactive art, you can call it, was created through the AO dev bot, which I'll share the link here. All right, so in this AO dev bot, it's powered by AI and whatnot. So I'm down here, Claude Sonnet or whatever the tool is. Currently, we are paying for the AI. We're looking to actually make it a service that you pay for as we're developing this out. So in this testing phase, I created this interactive art piece. So it uses AI, whatever AI of your choice. We then have a bunch of things. Then we have a bunch of things, in the back end that orient it towards AO. And there's processes that are on AO that manage the interactions in this setting. In addition to that, you'll see bottom right here, you can deploy it straight to the Permaweb. So it's all designed to work with AO and Arweave. So Dennis, I'm just bringing this up because this is something I made. So if I go here, you see like, boom, I got like this interactive art piece. You can, yeah. So there's one thing I was working on where it's like you clap and then there's this big display. So I'm working on this. And so the point here is that, oh, there you go. You do like a movement and you get this wild effect. The point here is that, maybe there's some sort of token to interact with this. Maybe it's the super art token that allows you to interact with it and you can put your hand on it and it stamps your hand into the Permaweb and then you mint it and it's a limited collection. Or, I don't know what the mechanism. That's where the artist's vision comes into place. And I'm still working through this particular, piece, if you will. So this just gives you an idea of what's possible. And the AO dev bot is, like I said, in a testing phase right now, and we will, be launching it like as a paid service into the future. And even for us, who knows? Like maybe we do have a token associated with AO dev bot, and we do go towards the Permaweb index. Again, like no financial or investment advice here at all. It's just there's a lot of optionality, Dennis. So does that help in your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right. So this may need to be the last question, maybe one or two.
Okay. So thank you, Greg. Thank you, Mehdi. I have one question about AO. So you mentioned AO uses Arweave to manage state. And in this demo, can you explain how state is being managed here with Arweave? Yeah.
Yeah. So in this demo, let me just see here. So 1 second. All right. Let me just pull. All right. Okay. So in this demo, let me just pull this up. I'll get this on screen. All right. So there's a thing called AO link. If you go to AO.link, you can see all the data that's being processed via AO and going to Arweave. So this is my process. Let me just come back into DevBot real quick. So when you look here, right, you with me? Like you look down here, you see a process. This is redeploy process. This is the process. And over here, you see redeploy Permaweb, and this is the Permaweb link, right? So this section over here, right here, is the Permaweb Arweave side, and this section right here is the AO process side. So like this is like the smart contract, right? To put in those words. Processes are kind of like smart contracts.
Greg, sorry to cut you off. I think we are still seeing the AO dev bot.
Yep. So this is so this is the process, and in AO DevBot, you create a process. We actually create a process for you, and so to answer your question, where does the state kind of come into this, and how does this particular experience interact with it? So now I'm going to come in here, and now I'm in the process. This is like the smart contract that is managing the thing I just shared. Anyways, so you can see the app name is AO DevBot. We created it through AO DevBots, and you see a bunch of different, what SDK is used. AO Connect is a common SDK that's used to interact with wallets and AO and whatnot. You can get information about the handlers, which are some of these like little details as to what this does. And then you can see down here all these messages. Now, AO Computer is a message passing computer. Like everything on AO is just like a message. And you can do a lot with messages. I mean, if you think about most of our interactions on anything we do online, it's all about messages. These are like messages of compute. So you see the logs of movement, for example. And you see all of these logs that were just generated either just a few minutes ago or a few days ago. So this is logging the movement as it's defined through the app into via AO onto Arweave. So if you look here, this is all the data of that log of movement. So it tells you the XYZ coordinates, then it tells you the timestamp of that. So this is one example of an application that's using a smart contract, aka process, to log the movements of the interactions of this application. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes, it does. So this is AO.link, right? If I want to check this. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, AO.link, and you can check out what's going on with the processes and all sorts of things here on the site. It'll tell you some stats up at the top, and you can basically just see what the latest and greatest is on the network, which is pretty cool. Again,
sorry, I just saw assignments below messages. So what are assignments?
Assignments below messages. I'm not sure exactly what you.
So
there's a bunch of actions.
Okay.
I think that just to answer you, Samuel, that's on the AO side. I'm going to share the link later on to like that specific explanation on the docs of AO, just to yeah.
All right.
Okay, yeah. So there's a bunch of different actions that you can utilize and define for any number of things, whether it's mint or transfer or confirm or run a cron job or whatever it is, right? It's like pretty much general programmability. And so, yeah. So this is, again, a relatively brief overview. I encourage you all to really just explore, like, what is your interest? If you're super into art, go wild with that. Do your thing. There's a place for you in the ecosystem. I do need to wrap up with that. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Greg, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. I think we all kind of got one thing or two from there. Just to mention, I really like the part where like you emphasized more on like everything is there. It's up to everyone to like go build what they want, and there is no literally higher bar or ceiling on that. Just before we probably let you go, one thing for those who don't know, Greg has really been a good supporter of the Arif Africa ecosystem and all that. So I just wanted to give a public shout out and a public thank you for that. And other than that, I think everyone here has got a word or two from that. We really thank you again for this wonderful presentation and hope to see you among us one of these days again. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I'm rooting for each and every one of you. Do your thing, be public, share what's going on, get on a live stream, do your thing, right? You can do a lot here, and there's a lot of opportunity. I'm rooting for you, so make it happen and enjoy it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, bye.
So I think before we wrap up the call, I think we've probably gone a little bit slow, especially for the people who are going to build stuff. So I would encourage you guys to just do one thing. I'm going to share the link to Hyperbeam and and AO, so that like you guys can just read through. There is a workshop, a full workshop coming, I think in a week or two in that regard. But just so that we don't slow you down, I'm going to share some resources that you guys can like read through and understand some of these things. So I think if there is one question that like one didn't get a chance to ask, you can ask it right now, and I can probably provide a sort of answer to that. Anyone with a pending question, maybe?
None for now. Actually.
Oh, okay, nice. If there is a question, please share that on Discord. One other thing, I think like let's try to be always on time for these meetings, because sometimes we have external people who have like really busy schedules and they have limited time. So the more time we take to start the call, it takes time away from us learning from that person. Other than that, I thank you all for joining the call today. This was really interesting. At least I think everyone got to hear a word or two from the presentation. With that said, I think let's catch up in the Discord and keep the conversation rolling. All right. Have a great rest of your evening, you all.
Thank you. Bye.